southwest corner. It will again slowly drift its way northwards, allowing some drier weather with some sunshine to follow on behind. Temperatures here in the low 20s. The northwest will see highs around 13 to 14 degrees, a little bit of cloud, and again the risk of a few showers. You can find more details on all of that by heading to our BBC Weather website.
Thanks, Tina. And that is all from the BBC News at 6. It's goodbye from me, and on BBC One we can join the BBC's news teams where you are. Bye-bye. Tonight on BBC London News, the Finsbury Park terror leader. After Abu Hamza's conviction, the Prime Minister vows to speed deportation of terror suspects. We look at why the radical cleric wasn't prosecuted in the UK for supporting terrorism. Also tonight. A woman dying of cervical cancer sues the hospital that failed to spot she was at risk.
It's just hard to kind of think about a simple mistake really has led to such a devastating effect on my life.
Plus, the major study of London school pupils to find out if mobile phones damage a child's mental development. And
the sheer scale of it, we didn't know when we were in it what we were in for.
We're with the war veterans commemorating the 70th anniversary of D-Day. Hello and a very good evening. He was one of London's most controversial figures for almost 20 years, spreading racial hatred and a brand of Islamic extremism from Finsbury Park Mosque in North London. Now Abu Hamza is facing a possible life sentence after being found guilty by a court in New York of supporting terrorism. Today, questions have been raised as to why the UK government wasn't able to prosecute the radical cleric for his part in a kidnapping which saw 3 Britons killed. This report from our Home Affairs correspondent, Guy Smith.
This was supposed to be a place for quiet contemplation, but during the 1990s, the dominant figure of Abu Hamza turned the Finsbury Park Mosque into a centre of political extremism, preaching hate and intolerance. Although eventually kicked out, his sermons on the street attracted more notoriety.
Abu Hamza was not a qualified imam. He formerly was a bouncer at a strip club, etc. He discovered religion, became very, very religious, and with a little smattering of Arabic, etc., unfortunately repositioned himself as some kind of Islamic scholar or sheikh.
In a New York court, Abu Hamza has been found guilty not for what he said, but what he did. He was convicted of 11 offences, among them helping to organise hostage-taking in the Yemen, in which 4 tourists, 3 of them British, were killed. Asked why the British justice system didn't prosecute him rather than the US, this was the answer from government.
The key thing is that Abu Hamza has faced justice and is likely to be behind bars for many years. The Crown Prosecution Service, which is independent of government, takes decisions in terms of the evidence before it, and Abu Hamza was convicted of offences in this country and sentenced to 7 years in prison.
And this is where the imams stand.
Mohammed Kosbar is chairman of the trustees at the mosque. He knows all about the past troubles.
How damaging was Abu Hamza to the image of Islam in Britain, but in particular to Muslims living here in London?
It's been a tough years for the Muslim community to deal with, and it wasn't fair on the Muslim community to be in that position during that period. Tensions between communities, media attractions, and some far-right extremists coming here to protest in front of the mosque.
Do you think the security services failed to take Abu Hamza seriously?
We all, as communities, felt that things can be done better during that period. And
in what way?
In a way of bringing communities together, taking away the hatreds from communities.
This is Abu Hamza in 2002 talking to BBC London.
What is actually going to stop you preaching? What will they have to do to stop you?
Just build me a grave.
Build you a grave? That's it. You're not going to stop?
No.
But he has been stopped and faces a long time in a US jail. Today the mosque is a very different place. Much has changed. Its management saying it is now what it's supposed to be, a centre for tolerance and understanding within the community. Guy Smith, BBC London News, Finsbury Park.
Well, joining me now is the BBC's security correspondent Frank Gardner. The Prime Minister said today that he wanted to see speedier deportations of people like Abu Hamza who pose a security risk. Is this realistic, and how many people are out there?
Well, I think this is going to be a battle for the Home Office to fight with European legislation. They've already fought it over Abu Qatada and others. But I think the real issue in this case is why wasn't he prosecuted, Abu Hamza, for his role in the Yemen kidnapping? Because that's the main case in America that's been brought against him. That's why the Americans have really thrown the book at him, because they have implicated him in the kidnapping of 16 Western tourists. And I've dug into this a bit today, and I put it to the Crown Prosecution Service, why didn't you prosecute him? They said, well, actually, we tried twice. We worked, they said, with senior officers from the police. They couldn't get enough evidence for the case. Now, they think that there was some evidence that was used in the US court that would not have been admissible in a British court. They won't say what that is, but we know that there was a satellite phone that Abu Hamza provided to the kidnappers. I was down in Yemen at the time in '98, and it turned out that he was talking to the kidnappers just ahead of the shootout where four tourists died.
Now, we heard in that report, in Guy's report, there, given the presence that he had in London, at Finsbury Park Mosque, what's your assessment of how damaging he has been to the reputation of Islam in the UK?
He was incredibly damaging, but I think that actually the media, bear some of the responsibility for this, because we kept interviewing him, and he did not represent and does not represent mainstream Islam. Of course he doesn't. He's no more a representative of most Muslims than some Quran-burning bigot is in the United States, is representative of Christianity. He is a tiny, very noisy minority view. And of course, the fact that he's got hooks for hands, and he's got one eye, and he's sort of straggly beard, and he's vast, and he's an ex-bouncer at a nightclub, he's almost kind of comic book villain, which is really embarrassing for a lot of people. He also didn't have much Islamic credentials. Abu Qatada did, and was deeply and remains deeply respected by Islamic scholars despite his views. Abu Hamza was not a sheikh, he was self-styled.
OK, Frank, thank you. Our security correspondent Frank Gardner there. Do stay with us, plenty more to come tonight, including after the Camden Market fire, stallholders are left counting the cost of the damage.